Hello, Starlings.
Welcome to Twin Stars, the show where cosmic wisdom meets everyday magic.
I'm Josie, astrologer, artist, and chakric pagan. I create custom tarot portraits and live at the intersection of ritual and art. I alchemize your sun, moon, and rising signs into visual spells of you and for you.
And I'm Jamie, astrologer, hypnotist, and Akashic record reader, and the mystical CEO behind the House of Mage. I help you align with the rhythms of the moon, rewire your inner world, and awaken the part of you that was written in the stars and etched in the records of your soul.
We created this podcast to guide you, our fellow starlings, through astrology, energy, and the unseen forces shaping your life. Let's begin with an activation of the heart and the third eye. Jamie, can you guide us on a grounding before we dive into the celestial waters?
Ooh, I'd be honored. So wherever you are, close your eyes. Breathe into your heart. Let it soften. Pisces reminds us you are not separate. You are the ocean, not just the wave. Open to the all. Let yourself be held by everything. And with that, let's begin.
Okay, diving in, we will to celestial waters, Pisces Full Moon Lunar Eclipse, and the spirit of surrender. We are about to discuss lunar eclipse in Pisces, and it is part of our Virgo season experience. And it's going to be a little different perspective-wise because of how different eclipses are from your usual lunations.
Yes. And this full moon lunar eclipse is going to be happening on September 7th. So all of the things that we're going to be discussing are around that September 7th date, but then also going to move into the following 2 weeks as we are going to have another eclipse, a Virgo solar eclipse, which is a new moon, 2 weeks after. But as we're talking about this Pisces lunar eclipse, so the full moon, that is where it is going to, the full moon is going to be kind of conjoined the North Node. So Pisces is very mystical. It's really helping us dissolve the boundaries. And it's dissolving the boundaries between the seen and unseen worlds. So this is where intuition is the most important superpower that you can really amplify. And because this is a time of chaotic energies and that we don't know what's going to happen, eclipses can often be very fated events. This is a moment where we surrender, not in a passive way, but in an active, mystical participant kind of way.
Yes, it's definitely the tone of surrender and the concept of less is more, I think, and less is everything, maybe in this true spirit of Pisces. We're gonna start introducing playlists to go with the vibe. So we'll have that linked in the show notes. A Spotify playlist that I just create to kind of sort of have a soundtrack to my world as I navigate each season and each lunar cycle and each astrological astrological period.
But the other thing with that, it's so funny. I was making some black beans earlier and I was like very kitchen witch and I was like kind of channeling you in that. And in like just thinking about the different type of like witches that we kind of like vibe with, like I think that you being a DJ too, like there's kind of some kind of like magical tradition within that because music is so magical. Sound can change the vibe so instantly in ways that nothing else can. So,
Right.
like, I
Yeah.
really feel like this is a form of magic.
It is. And I think so too. I mean, I feel like music is sort of a way of connecting people of all kinds, and it's like magic to people who aren't even necessarily into anything mystical. It's got a sense of magic. It brings a sense of magic energy to everybody. And so that's what's cool about music is it is this like tool of magic. And like being a DJ, I've really brought my propensity for magic to what I do when I am DJing. And it's this like important part of me sort of manifesting the world around myself. Specifically music is. So
Yeah,
yeah.
because when you're around a good DJ too, it's like they are like kind of affecting the vibe of the room, you know? Either
Mm-hmm.
lifting it up or bringing it down. Like when you're around a good DJ, that's really what they're tending to. And like that is witchcraft if nothing else.
It feels like it is.
It totally is. And the the little grimoire that will also be a little companion in the show notes. It is going to have an eclipse survival guide. As we are going to be moving into like the windows between the two eclipses. This is going to be eclipse season. So we've got like 2 weeks to really just surrender to the powers that are. And this grimoire is going to be a bit of a survival guide in that.
Yeah. And that's that difference in perspective. Is like a survival guide is very specific necessity of eclipse season specifically.
Yeah, because we don't really want to be like necessarily doing a lot of manifestation magic. We don't even necessarily need to be doing too much releasing per se, because we just don't know what the energy is going to be like. Um, the the eclipses are very much like fated times. So this is the time when people might get together, they might break up, they might experience a pregnancy, they might be moving, they might lose their job, their car might break down. It's these kind of moments in fate that like pull you along in your journey. And sometimes it can be very disruptive. In Kundalini, I really like how they describe that energy is always moving like vertically or horizontally, but then when it comes to
Mhm.
eclipse times, it moves on a diagonal. So that's how all of that energy really shifts.
Yeah.
And
It's like a lot of pressure and a lot of shape, like a lot of it's the snow globe getting shook up.
yes, that's a really good way to describe it. And it's said in like more traditional astrology that the north node is the head of the dragon and the south node is the tail of the dragon. So when an eclipse occurs, that is when Earth's or the lunar orbit, so the moon moving around the Earth, is aligned with the ecliptic. So the ecliptic is the Earth moving around the sun. So when they align, that is when an eclipse is going to happen. And
Mm.
that happens in when there's a lunation, a full moon, or a new moon near the north or south node. So all these things are kind of coming together and having that perfect alignment. And I always like to think of these moments as an indigenous person, like hundreds of years ago, maybe even thousands, and like being outside on the plains and having an eclipse happen like midday where the sun completely is blacked out, and that being such a major reset, but also it feeling like the gods are speaking to you and having that type of like
Mhm.
shut down, total reset, like that would be so jarring. I mean, now we know what it is for sure. I mean, odds are they were that sophisticated, they probably knew also, but there it was like undeniable. it's undeniable that, like this is something like a pivotal moment. So that's what we're going to be experiencing. In North America, we're not going to have that total like lights out moment, but in parts of the world that will occur. So,
Right. It's happening somewhere visually,
yes.
but it's happening to us as a collective, regardless of whether we get to see it, the visual or not.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Collective, another good word that you just used because it's Pisces, and Pisces is
Yeah.
all about like the collective unconscious,
Mm.
compassion, intuition. So it's like the prelude of a beginning. So kind of that closure, that dissolving of material. And I love the Pisces full moon. It's one of my most favorite of the year, that and the Scorpio full moon, because, we are Scorpio rising. So I really love that. But
Mm.
this eclipse, I'm not going to be making moon water because I just don't want that chaotic
Yeah.
energy, especially in my body. But when it does come to be the Pisces full moon, I normally make 2 containers of it because I really love that dissolving of the individual into the everything. I love
Mm.
that collective, the one, the all. I love that feeling. And it just being like the most powerful emotional depths of water. I think that's just such a romantic, dreamy place to be.
Totally. Yes. That's the Pisces energy. And then the thing too about like the eclipses always being with the north south node position, it's so intense. And that's the reason why, like in Pisces, especially, you want to take so many steps back and not try to activate or control things because there's already that activation in every eclipse because it's running along the nodal circuit. And that is a dragon. And, it's like fire energy. Eclipses are lunar cycles that bring like a bolt of lightning in, or the dragon's breath. It's like the dragon's breath from the nodes. So that's just really um speaks to the energy of eclipses that have to do with this, like, don't try to, like, lightning is dangerous. It's very specific, but it's still dangerous. And you kind of have to take a step back. You don't want to like engage with it unless you have some container that won't zap you. And
Yeah.
that's like the eclipse energy.
And another element to layer on top of it, because I feel like astrology is like literally so many layers,
So many.
is that the North Node is, the head of the dragon. So that is going to be what is insatiable. It wants to continuously
Mhm.
eat and eat and eat. And the South Node being the tail is what is karmically being released.
Oh,
So
wow.
as we're in that axis right now between Pisces and Virgo,
Hmm.
it's like the universe is the cosmos is asking us to be incorporating more of that Piscean energy. So
Right.
more of that expansive nature, that unconditional love. And then it's also asking us to release the perfectionism, the detail oriented South Node. So, like those Virgo eclipses that are going to happen in 2 weeks.
Mhm.
So, around that new moon, that solar eclipse. So, we'll talk about that more in the next episode. But it's just something to kind of like keep in mind of as we're moving through like these cosmic waters, that even though this might be a bit of a storm, that like just kind of ride through it as best as you can. Just start like floating and stare up at that sky, and just know that this storm will pass.
Surrendering to what is. That is something that I find to be, I mean, as we mentioned, even in the title of this podcast, surrender is like a key theme. And during this season, like on the pagan wheel, I feel like the nighttime becomes kind of the highlight. It's a time where it's gonna get dark a little earlier, but it's still warm enough out to kind of hang out into the night. And especially where I live right now, it's actually too hot most of the summer. But right now is like the ideal time to be outside at night because the weather is just absolutely perfect. And we get some stars. It's still a little urban, but we get some stars. And so, like a couple weeks ago, I was just laying in the backyard looking at the stars, and I went from being this sun river baby all summer and like floating and going out all day and to all of a sudden I was just laying in my backyard at night, and that was my source of entertainment. And it reminds me of the like lazy days of summer or the end of summer, and the beginning of fall when you start kind of contemplating the darkness and the combination of like the sky and the sea and Pisces sort of being that constellation that is swimming in the sky and correlating the sky with the ocean, is something I really like about all of this. This is a surrender. You like look up and you surrender. And when you look up at the sky and you can't see anything, but it starts to feel like that is the ocean and you're underneath it. And so it's really like a good time of the year when we become conscious of the night sky to reflect on how we are the ingredients of what's in the sky and what's in the water with like the primordial soup. And that goes back to the Pisces concept too. Like these fish swimming around in a circle is very representative of that, like uh actual evolutionary concept of primordial soup and life coming from that. And then it's holds to reason when you reflect on the concept of the galaxy and the stars, because we are made up of the same chemicals as what's in the stars. So I just
Mhm.
love that there's this like never ending reflection from one to the other. And it brings us into those concepts of like who the ruler of the sea is and all of these archetypes that are very important to both the heaven and the ocean.
Oh, yes. And perfectly all aligned for us to go into the myth of Poseidon himself. Long ago, when the world was young and men still trembled at the sound of thunder or the roar of waves, there was Poseidon, lord of the ocean. His beard was foamed with salt, his eyes the deep blue of storm-tossed waters, and in his hands he held a trident that could split the earth or calm the tide with a single stroke. Mortals feared him, for he was quick to anger, yet they also prayed to him, for without his waters, no crop could grow, no ship could sail. One night, as the constellations wheeled above the Aegean, Poseidon gazed upwards. Amongst the stars, he saw a pair of fish, bound by a silver cord, darting together through the darkness. These were no ordinary creatures. They were born of love and escape. As the story goes, when Aphrodite and her son Eros fled amongst a monstrous foe. To hide, they leapt into a river and became two fish, forever tied. And they tied themselves together so they wouldn't lose one another in the current of the water. Poseidon, moved by their devotion, claimed them as his own. The sea holds many treasures, but none so precious as loyalty. He breathed his power into the constellation of Pisces, giving soul of the ocean mystery, depth, and dream. From then on, whenever mortals looked upwards at the fish in the heavens, they felt the pull of tides inside their own hearts, intuition, compassion, and the longing to dissolve into something greater. Thus, Pisces carries the whisper of the sea god, gentle yet unfathomable. It teaches us that we are all drops in an endless ocean, separate yet forever bound. And to this day, when the waves lap against the shore at night, some say it's Poseidon himself reminding us of the fish who swim amongst the stars. Isn't that a beautiful myth of just the depth of Poseidon, the anger and the love and compassion of Eros and Aphrodite?
Yeah,
Like them being archetypes of Pisces, it's just like it can't get any dreamier.
you can't. And it's also so, I just love how we've got to bring a lot of players in to really embody Pisces. Whereas I felt like it was easy to pick one deity to embody the sort of concepts of the Virgo new moon and Virgo season. This is just a whole production, a whole experience, all of the oceanic and uh, dreamy and like erotic and like romantic players at hand.
Hmm.
A lot of passion involved.
Yeah, a lot of deep emotion.
Mhm.
And I loved how there were like hints of Poseidon being quick to anger, because even though Pisces can have such a wonderful, dreamy, compassionate side, it can also slip into nightmares and addiction and like just loss of boundaries. So I think that that's a really important element to like have in there to just really understand the breadth of something so expansive.
Yeah, totally.
Um, Another like little story that I love to tell, and you have now heard it for the millionth and once time. Is and I just think that it's really apropos for right now because we are in this eclipse window where it's going to be teeter-tottering between Pisces and Virgo.
Mhm.
And as sister signs that are opposite one another, there is always going to be similarities and then distinct differences. And the anecdote that I love to use is that you give a mission, you give a task to a Pisces and a Virgo to go and find the most beautiful sand dollars on a beach. And Virgo will systematically crawl the entire beach, find the most perfect sand dollars that have ever existed, and they will bring them back to you. And in the same time, Pisces will also bring back the most beautiful sand dollars, but only because they have brought it with all of the sand, all of the kelp, all of the little sea creatures, maybe even a little water. Like everything is scooped up in it, but they definitely also have those most beautiful sand dollars.
They're in there. They're in there.
And just to have like that all-encompassing energy, like where nothing is kind of swept aside, like there's nothing dismissed, like everything is accepted. I think that that is very
Mm.
like Pisces. And as this North Node um, eclipse is happening, it's really just asking, the cosmos are asking us to incorporate more of that expansive energy, and
Mhm.
maybe to let down our walls of being so separate and really maybe even think about how we're more similar than we are different,
Right?
and have more compassion for ourselves, number one, but also for maybe people that you don't understand at all, you know?
Yeah. And that would be the medicine of Pisces, right? Like when you surrender to these sort of more nourishing feelings instead of surrendering to fear. And I mean, fear mainly is the one that'll really mess you up, but surrendering to compassion and surrendering to spiritual realignment, that is like what will be a salve and a balm on the severity of the eclipses. as we move through them.
Yes. And, we have a laundry list of different survival tactics during this time because, we are very conditioned to do. And this is the time for us to lean into being human beings and just be rather than human doings.
Yes.
And we've come up with quite a few different things to just like lean into in the next 2 weeks following the 7th and let those eclipses pass because, they may hit you really hard and it's like you're being pummeled by the ocean, or they might just pass you by. But regardless of what happens, like it's just beneficial for us to kind of step back a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's interesting because, I mean, going into the Eclipse Survival Guide, it's this reframing of a survival guide over sort of a ritual grimoire of manifestation and, plans, visions, even letting stuff go specifically is all very like proactive. And here in this situation, we're more just like, what do we do to stay afloat? And how do we maintain stability in chaos? And so a survival guide is more appropriate than like manifestation ritual or a like vision boarding type of thing. And I like that. I mean, it is basically part of surviving the season to open up to surrender, but there's all these other things that you can do, like, set boundaries. And opening up to surrender has everything to do with rest. And even though you're surrendering, you're opening up, the concept is you reduce the input with rest and emotional boundaries. And you create sort of an empty space around yourself for things to just unfold and cleanse and move in, out, up, down, whichever way it needs to move.
Yeah, and like with the up, down, and all the directions, like a huge, wonderful thing to do is maybe dance. As we were talking about it before, you mentioned like bare feet and just being like barefoot in all of this. And I just thought that was like, it tickled me so because, Pisces be related to like the soles of your feet and, possibly where the soul connects into your body and you just dancing that out and um, the body, it really holds so much memory, cellular memory from our ancestors, also every trauma that has ever occurred to us. So it's like when you can actually do some kind of healing, which requires movement and to just let
Mm-hmm.
it go, like there's nothing more powerful. So, like, part of the survival guide is just dance. Dance like no one is watching.
Yes.
And we'll have a Spotify playlist for that. Check. But not only just like dancing, but just having any kind of like grounding rituals, actually physically like doing an energetic grounding in the day, or else having like baths at night, just things that
Mm-hmm.
really nourish and support the body. And it kind of reminds me of how I unintentionally will like neglect my body because I just get busy and I'll do this and I'm like I got my to-do list. But treating myself as if I'm sick without actually having to be sick. So just like moving slow, nourishing maybe with some like warm soups.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, I mean, definitely like having a bath. And even if I don't do a bath, like maybe even just like soaking your feet. Like there are
Yeah,
things that can be done.
absolutely. Specifically your feet, and that's part of it's an interesting concept of the earth water dynamic in opposites because I love to bring them together in the lunar cycles of earth water uh zodiac. And putting your feet where you ground into a bath of water is doing just that. If you get your whole body in, all the more grounding. But putting your feet on cement or grass or dancing barefoot when you have your own private dance party is all
Yeah.
those are all ways to like really focus on your feet. Then giving it the bath is the way of like nourishing them too. Like you're bringing energy and you're releasing energy, and you're bringing it and you're releasing it, like an ebb and flow that we're going for as we address each part of our body and each part of our psyche too.
Yeah. And another really big reminder, which is in the survival guide, is to just not make any big decisions right now.
Mhm.
Like, just let everything pass, let everything settle. We're not always going to know exactly what's happening right now, but in time, we will have like an understanding of what's going on. So, if you can avoid big decisions, try to give yourself that grace if you can. Um, and one of my ultimate favorites out of all the survival guide is really just being in creative flow with
Mhm.
music, with art. Pisces is the ultimate mystic and artist. So, like, some really beautiful artwork can come out of this.
And letting it just really flow, like without a plan or a structure, is definitely how you go about that. It's like we create this big open space for things to just happen in without a plan or a vision as to how to fill it up. And that's the important part of like delaying big decisions right now. You got to let this energy play out, because basically it's a wormhole when you go through eclipse season, and especially in Pisces. Um, Especially in the Pisces Virgo dynamic. It's a lot of pressure and quick movement in in these eclipse cycles over these years.
Yeah. Trust the unseen.
Mhm.
Pisces is a fog. So, it's going to
Mhm.
be hiding things and really just sensing the unseen because there's so much in the world around us. Like, what we can actually see is like 1% of what is actually like truly around us. And that
Mhm.
primordial soup that you were talking about is like really indicative. Like, we live in such energetically concentrated like ethers that we're just like so unaware of. And truthfully, we probably couldn't handle to embrace very much of it. If we're only allowed 1%, we probably can't
Right?
handle more than like 2%. But still, just
Chances
to
are
like
good
have that.
it'll explode us into a million tiny
Don't-
pieces again.
yeah, it's like, okay, we don't need to
Yep.
explode, but just maybe even acknowledging that aspect that we are just like only fragments of our reality. Like, we only see such a small part of it. So, really just
Mm.
feeling into the more of it, I think is cool.
And just to add a little bit to um, the utilization of creative flow, I mean, something that's always a good option is to just dream journal or free write in the morning, like they recommend in the Artist's Way. Just letting things move through you. It's like, we're on a river and we're not in control of the river, but if we are paying attention to the water, then we can navigate with these tools. And journaling is like definitely one of those tools where you're using something to steer yourself through the waters of your subconscious and the waters we don't have control over, our environment, our subconscious, the heavens above. These are all like panels, and we can ride them with grace if we utilize things like dream journaling and like free writing.
Yeah. And to incorporate a mantra like, I don't need to know right now. I will
Mm,
understand in time, and just have
yeah.
that be top of mind.
With that said, we could collect one more tool in the form of our oracle card. I'm pulling from the Wild Unknown for these improv pulls, the in the moment pull of the card. And today we have synchronicity or unus mundus in this book is source, destiny, and the miraculous message.
Will you describe those, the card for those who can't see the or
The
listening?
imagery?
The
Yeah,
podcast?
it's
Yeah.
two snakes, or it's actually more than two snakes. It's the circle of snakes that are sort of eating their tail, and there's several of them, which really goes nicely with the Pisces imagery as well. But I feel like perfect too for this sort of spiraling, swirling energy that you get during this season. It has a lot to do with the third eye as well, and sort of how we have this ever spiraling energy within us. And it's Kundalini. So I just show that a little bit more there. Kundalini in Eastern traditions. And we have it in scientific ways too, just by the spiraling of DNA and the way that we are sort of spiraling through space as a solar system, and then again as a galaxy. All of that is like right in line with what we are talking about today. So the imagery is perfect. And let's see, what does Kim Kranz have to say about it? The Unus Mundus is the presiding deity of alchemy. It arrives to remind us that we are not alone in our queries or our journey. What are we here to do? What pulls us forward? Unanswerable questions are timeless fuel for the flames of transformation. Mystics before us have uttered the same questions while tinkering in their laboratory. Do not underestimate the brave act of your attention to the details of your daily life, to the ecology of the world. What you notice matters. You matter. When this card arrives, sacred messages abound. Everything is a living symbol, a synchronicity. Its guidance is sent directly from the alchemists who have come before you to encourage you along the way. See the deeper meaning of what it is in front of you in this very moment the new eye open. Ponder the miracle of your conception. And when Unus Mundus appears, something you cannot yet see is taking shape. It will soon emerge to support you. Trust, breathe, the miracle awaits. So they touched on a lot of points we made already here. So
Yeah.
thank you.
And a very
Oracle
faded,
deck.
yes, a very faded deck, very faded card,
Yeah.
which we're entering very faded times. Destiny awaits.
Destiny awaits. Or we await while Destiny gets ready in the back.
I like it. Well, thank you for floating in the stars with us today. If something sparked, stirred, or lit you up,
Share the magic, leave a review, follow the show, and invite others into our celestial circle. Don't forget to check out our Spotify playlists linked in the show notes. This one is Celestial Waters and music that I like to listen to during the Virgo season and the Pisces full moon.
and also in those show notes, you're going to find the grimoire. So check that out. And you can find me at the House of Mage, where the moon is our mentor and magic is our method.
I'm Basic Witch on Instagram, where art, ritual, and witchcraft meet soul expression.
Until next time, Starlings.
I surrender to the waters of fate. May the tides carry me where my soul longs to go.
Beautiful. So it is. Bye.
Bye.